Take the red pill.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
The disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
All we have built, all we have worked for, would be destroyed.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
And this nation will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action,
These criminals cannot be rewarded.
so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction.
There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
The cost of freedom is always high.
Those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
This is a crusade! This is a holy war against the deep state!
We never wanted to be right, but yet things are all adding up to the firestorm.
From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people. We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And this makes us special among the nations of the earth. Our government has no power except that granted it by the people. It is made up of men and women who raise our food, patrol our streets, man our mines and factories, teach our children, keep our homes, and heal us when we're sick. Professionals, industrialists, shopkeepers, clerks, cabbies, and truck drivers. They are, in short, we the people. Their patriotism is quiet but deep. Their values sustain our national life. As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever. We will maintain sufficient strength to prevail if need be, knowing that if we do so, we have the best chance of never having to use that strength. Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Well, I believe we, the Americans of today, are ready to act worthy of ourselves, ready to do what must be done to ensure happiness and liberty for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. We are a nation under God, and I believe God intended for us to be free.
Forgot to turn my camera on. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you from Monday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is where we bring you that unfolding global conspiracy. It is. I see everybody joining in the chat. Glad to have you out there from all over the country, all over the world. We get New Zealand, we get Australia, we got Minnesota out there, Minnesota here, we got Washington State. We got people from all walks of life. It's amazing to kind of do this day in and day out and see the emails that come in, the people that send me messages from all over the country, all over the world, and it's pretty cool. So, because we all remember a time when America was something different than what it is today. And see, I think it's our generation is one of the last generations that will will come to the realization that we grew up in a time where things truly were beautiful and free and amazing. I remember growing up just outside of Rochester, a little kid, you know. In the summers, it was waking up in the morning with a big old bowl of cereal and watching or watching the morning cartoons during the summertime and being thrown out the door by your mom and said, go play. And you would leave your house at 8:30, 9 a.m. and you wouldn't come back until 8:30, 9 p.m. And you were never bored. Even when you were bored, you were still doing something. You still had something to do, whether it was climbing trees or cutting down trees or building tree forts or, you know, going through hikes through the frog pond or playing backyard football or walking the railroad tracks to endless destinations out in the countryside where you end up in a farmer's field. Whatever it might have been. Bike rides, sleepovers. There was once a time when America was completely different than it is now. And that's a time that I miss. That's a time that I wish my children would have the ability to grow up in. Because now we look at the world differently. We see things differently. We see all the dangers and the evils of the world presenting themselves, rising out from the darkness and coming out into the light. You know, it's the 817th episode of the Daily Dose. We'd probably a few more in there, but I think we only started counting like 40 in. But the number 17, I always have to go to the boards and look at like one of my favorite board posts. And this is kind of where the idea for tonight's show came from. And I'll read it to you. This is my favorite board post. It starts out with the flag, the U.S. flag, but it's 4559, posted July 1st, 2020. Children stood at attention and with pride put their hand on their heart and in one united voice recited the Pledge of Allegiance. There was a time when strength and honor meant something. There was a time when our flag meant something. There was a time when our history, our heritage, was taught with pride and respect. There was a time when respect was given to those who served, bled, and died to protect and defend our freedom. There was a time when we were grateful. There was a time when accomplishments. There's a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united under one flag. A flag in the battle by brave patriots as a symbol of freedom and justice for all, no matter their religion or background. A beacon of hope when flown. A mark of respect to their memory to those who willfully sacrificed their lives to defend. There was a time when we, the people, decided our future. There was a time when we, the people, were united and strong. There was a time when the media was free from political bias and corruption. There was a time when our elected leaders stood their ground, dug in, and defended those they represented. How many men and women in uniform are currently serving on the front lines abroad, only to look back in horror to see the homeland on fire? What does the word patriot mean to you? Home of the brave. Now is not the time to be complacent. Will you answer the call? Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream, for it must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children that it was what it was once like in the United States of America, where men were free. Ronald Reagan. So people on Facebook are saying that it is glitchy. I want to go ahead and check that out. Is it glitchy anywhere else? Because if it is, it's not me. So people are saying it cuts out. Okay, if it's cutting out, it is not me. it's Restream using. So I will have to contact their tech support. And I apologize. I'm going to turn on the stream right just to make sure. But, America was an idea. It was something that our founding fathers decided to create in hopes that men and women would rise up and answer to the call to build a great world, to build a place where tyrants would not have the ability to thrive. Unfortunately, we have been infiltrated. We have been lied to, manipulated. We have been coerced. And we find ourselves almost 250 years later, once again, tyranny and oppression. The tyranny and oppression this day, though, is much different than what it was 250 years ago. It comes in the sense of censorship, political weaponization, of injustice by the political systems, with the reduction of your power. It comes with the changing landscape of the United States of America on the sense of how business is done. When others are in control of the monetary system of your dollars, then every percent of inflation that increases is a percentage of wealth that is taken away from you. We have a lot of work to do in this country. I was listening to General Mike Flynn last night on Redacted with Clayton Morris. And General Flynn said it best. He said, this isn't going to take 4 years of one presidency of Donald Trump. Man, this is going to take a decade at the least to turn around the damage that has been done to our country. He's right. Which means that you and I have a lot of work to do to pick up the pieces of the damage that has been done to the United States of America by these radical Marxists. But the first thing that we need to do is we need to eliminate them from the equation. We need to stop this Marxist agenda dead in its tracks. We need to go out there and revive the United States of America, the constitutional republic that stands for freedom and justice. Establish that foundational aspect in our household, in our communities, in our villages, within our states, and within Washington, D.C. I'm a firm believer right now that I'll go out and vote on November 5th if there is going to be an election, and it's not going to fucking matter. That our vote means absolutely nothing. That your vote has zero impact on the election in November. As in, they've devised ways to scam the system. For every vote for Trump, there is a counteracted vote for somebody else that they want in office. IGOs, NGOs, nonprofit billionaires, elitists, globalists, they are the ones who control and dictate the world at this moment. But see, that has to change. We cannot allow a small minority of global elitists to control the future of hundreds of millions of people, to control the legality, the contractual nature of the United States of America. Something is coming. I think you know it. I know it. We all feel it deep within ourselves. Something big is coming. Whether that's a black swan event that Joe and I talked about last night, or whether that's World War III or global economic collapse, whether it's illegal immigrant riots that occur in our cities, or a combination of all the things, or a massive solar flare that produces an EMP, massive weather modification that turns us back into an ice age. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I can tell you one damn thing is that when faced with adversity, when faced with the challenges America will rise up. America will be strong. America will be united. And that is the one thing that these people are scared of. They are scared of you and me united under one voice, under one common accord, under one principle of bringing America back. General Michael Flynn also said last night that, this isn't a time frame to sit here and bitch and complaining and policy and regulations and ideologies, and you're a Democrat and I'm a moderate and you're an independent and I'm a conservative. Right now, we have to understand that we're American, and that if we want the American way of life to continue, then we have to fight for it. Fighting takes many different directions when we start talking about it in this context. On a side note, one thing you'll realize is that there's people out there in your life that you should just just a thought. Some people come off as conservative. They come off as MAGA. They come off as, loving the way that conservatives think. And so they jump on that bandwagon. But at the end of it all, you find out that they're nothing much more than liberal bitches. Probably because they live in liberal states, too. Just saying. Let's get rocking and rolling here. Oh, on a side note, I don't usually do this. I'm going to put it out there. If anybody is a lawyer in the state of Washington, contact me. Hit me up. I need to talk to you real quick. Just a few different things. Nothing major, nothing crazy. But if you're a lawyer in the state of Washington, hit me up. Red Pill Project online at gmail.com. Social Red Pill. Appreciate that. So yesterday we had the World Health Organization declare the monkeypox emergency in Africa. This morning I wake up to a tweet that states the WHO believes that monkeypox could easily spread to European nations. Not even 20 minutes later, monkeypox detected in Sweden. I'm like, oh, how fucking convenient. So, monkeypox, which is a painless disease. This one they're saying is got a massive death rate. Nobody died, but it's got a massive death rate. It's high, but it's not moving as fast as we thought it would, right? So Sweden, you don't say Sweden, you say Sweden. Sweden's public health agency has recorded what it says is the first case of more dangerous type of monkeypox outside of the African continent. The person became infected during a stay in the area of Africa where there is currently a major outbreak of mpox. News comes just hours after the World Health Organization declared the outbreak of mpox in parts of Africa. Hours! Fucking hours! The butt flu in hours, hours after emergency. Oh, look, we got his feed. Fucking people. This is nothing more than genetically engineered and released. Just like what happened in 2019 and 2020. Bioengineered weapons that are being utilized against the world population to implement a state of fear and then a police state. This is what it's all fucking about. And this is the type of shit that we have to stop. Now, I'm not going to piss anybody off here, but I think we all understand that the big pharmaceutical companies, whether they're in it for the profit or making the vaccines to do this, they might not be the ones developing it, but they're involved in it. They are involved in it at the very high level. They're the ones getting the gain and function research to this. They're the ones that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation were going to develop these things. This is the evil on our earth. Those that have joined a coalition to produce bioweapons, to modify bacteria or whatever the fuck they're using, nanotech, to attack humanity, to implement fear and make profit. That's evil. And all I have to say is that the universe has a way of balancing itself. that eventually it will come to the surface and have to be dealt with. And that those involved in these horrendous crimes of producing these bioweapons, of releasing them on humanity, your day's coming. And fuck, I'd love to be there to see it. The look on your face. Or karma catches up to you. According, at least 400 people died during the initial outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the disease has since spread across Central and Eastern Africa. According to Olivia Witzel, the acting head of Swedish Public Health Agency, the infected person had sought care in Stockholm area, and the fact that they were receiving treatment in Sweden did not mean there was a risk to the broader population. The affected person also had been infected during the stay in Africa, where there's a large outbreak of Mpox class 1. It causes flu-like symptoms, skin lesions, and can be fatal, with 4 in 100 cases leading to death. So a 4% death rate. I think the numbers are too soon to depict on that. I'm not fans of these people, but this is some really good information. I want you to listen to the intro of Naomi Wolf on Alex Jones, because what she says here is absolutely true. It's a little bit about what I was already talking about last night.
Well, I'm sorry, you're not going to like this, but martial law has already been brought in. The federal government keeps extending a state of emergency for nonsensical reasons. First, it was for the pandemic, and then Biden extended it in April for Iran, or, at the state level, it's been extended now for racial bias, the emergency racial bias. So across the country, most states are still in a state of emergency, and federally, we're still
You're
in a
absolutely right. COVID was the training wheel. So we're under martial law now. I mean, we're under a civil emergency.
That's what I'm saying. They can, and especially with these public health measures, if they say there's a pandemic, they've been very clear, and that's why we've been fighting this pandemic treaty so hard. If the WHO says there's a pandemic and the United States is a signatory to this, it means that I can wake up and there are, UN troops or mercenaries or WHO troops, Dr. Fauci's troops, Bill Gates's troops outside my window. They can say, you've been exposed to a bloodborne pathogen, you're coming with us, and I'll have no recourse. A lot of people have noticed that there are Chinese police stations in San Francisco, in Canada. People are noticing. My husband, Brian O'Shea, and his co-host, JJ Carroll, who's a border agent, have been sounding the alarm for months about millions of military-age men, marching into this country.
Wearing the same boots and the same backpacks, and you can look at them. They're officer corps guys. They're 20, 30, 40, 50, and you can even tell who the leader is, and they're just and again, the Chi-Coms are funding a lot of the Islamicists, all these groups, and the Chinese come in, it's military. The Muslims come in, you can tell, I'm getting chills, it's military. You can see them coming in, and then they've got brand new tattoos, like they're Hispanic, but they're not. They've got glistening brand new tattoos for their cover. You can see it. You're talking about Red Dawn.
Absolutely. And when you look at, if you know about war and you look at where these fighting age men are being stationed, I was astonished to find out they're being stationed at like Denver Airport and Chicago O'Hare Airport. I'm sitting in Salem, Massachusetts, and there's this gigantic, beautiful dormitory around the corner at Salem State University full of military age, illegal aliens.
And it gets worse. Than top Chinese generals from Texas to Colorado to South Dakota to Minnesota are buying thousands of acres of land right next to key military bases and putting up giant surveillance towers. People are worried about a balloon, folks.
All right. The one thing that is that our country is being systematically invaded right now. It is beyond the control of it. Now, we just heard that part right there. I want you to listen to Michael Yon with Tucker and what he has to say about a completely different aspect of this. But you're going to see the parallel. Check this out.
And the main funder, by the way, is the United States. It's the United States. I hear people constantly talking about how we should punish Colombia or punish Panama or stay in Mexico. That's all nonsense. The people that are talking about stay in Mexico policy have zero idea what's going on. It's like teaching calculus to somebody who doesn't actually know how to add yet. The United States is the one that's behind most of this. The main engine is something called IOM, which is actually most of the Border Patrol agents I talk with have never heard of the Darien Gap, and they've never heard of IOM. IOM is the International Organization for Migration. That's the main engine that is doing this, right? They are part of the United Nations. They have a big office down in Panama at the City of Knowledge. It's right on the Panama Canal, actually. And there's more than 5 dozen NGOs down there, IGOs and nonprofits. The main one is IOM. You can see people going through airports every day across the United States and Europe and Asia as well with IOM tote bags and that sort of thing. But IOM actually has probably the best office space in all of Panama. It's in Building 110 at the City of Knowledge. I was just there about 7 days ago. And it's right, they fly their flag. The City of Knowledge in Panama City used to be Fort Clayton. All the veterans of Panama know what I'm talking about. Fort Clayton was the U.S. Army South headquarters, right?
Right.
That's one of the most vital pieces of terrain on planet Earth. There's almost no place on planet Earth more important than that little speck of land that overlooks the Miraflores Locks, Panama Canal, the Panama Canal Railway, and the Thatcher Ferry Bridge. The Thatcher Ferry Bridge is the bridge for Highway 1 that goes all the way down from, the tip of South America up to Colombia. And then there's that gap. That's why they call it the Darien Gap, because there's a break in the road, which they're about to hook together. And then that goes all the way, that road, and Brett Weinstein talked about it on your show. Brett did excellent down there, by the way. And that man loves the jungle. But that highway goes all the way up to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. And so that's a key highway. So you've got Panama, such a vital piece of terrain, because first of all, the Panama Canal, and secondly, the Panama Canal Railway is important, believe it or not, and that road, and Panama, just the location is vital. Now, we need the Panama Canal for trade, for one thing, but we also need it to get our Navy through, right? And so we're slowly losing Panama. The NGOs that are causing these invasions, like IOM, HIAS, Catholic Charities, and so many more, are also taking over governments. Now,
wait, may I ask you to pause? May I ask you to pause for a second? It sounds like from your reporting that the NGOs and the UN are vital. Like this wouldn't be happening without them. So let's just pause, if you don't mind, and explain. You just mentioned 3. You mentioned the UN Agency for Migration, the one devoted to destroying the United States. What are the second 2? One was Catholic Charities, and what was the middle one?
Oh, there's at least 250. But in City of Knowledge, there's at least 62, 63. I've got somebody doing a study on them now. But the HIAS is one. That's the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. And that's actually, interestingly, Doug McGregor, whom you've had on your show, told me back when, he said, Mayorkas, Ali Mayorkas, Homeland Security Chief, was actually a board member on HIAS. So, and then he moved over to the Department of Homeland Security, which, recurses back to what I was just mentioning. These NGOs are working hard to take over various countries. For instance, HIAS, the board member, Mayorkas, went to take over Department of Homeland Security. Now, Mayorkas was down there in Darien. I got word that he was going in 2022, so I got in front of him, and I waited for him for 4 days in the Darien because I suspected where he might land, and he did. 4 days later, he landed in front of me, 4 Blackhawks. He went right into San Vicente camp, which I call China camp, and he was there with Southcom commander Laura Richardson. He was there with also the ambassador Aponte and some others. And so basically he was coming down there with fistfuls of money to increase the size of the camps and increase the flow through the camps. So I'll show you drone footage. Actually, I've already given it to your team.
Pardon my dumb questions, but why would the head of the Department of Homeland Security want to destroy the United States? Do you have any idea?
I can't read his mind, but I can read his actions. He's clearly doing it.
Do you see the correlation? See, I think we're in a game that is being played globally right now. We are looking at everything that is going on, and we're wondering where the next is going to take place. Is it going to be Iran and Israel? Is it going to be Ukraine and Russia? Is it going to be what's happening in England? America. You just Michael Yawn right there talking about how the Department of Homeland Security Secretary was down in the Darien Gap and to house what I'm saying. I lost connection there for a minute. But let's reiterate this. If you're watching that Alex Jones video I just played a second ago with Naomi Wolf, there was a picture that came up that showed in 2004, Tim Walz, then a congressman, taught over in China at various institutions. Right now, there's congressmen who are investigating Tim Walz and his connections to China. Representative Jim Banks demands the Pentagon probe in the Tim Walz frequent trips to China while serving in the National Guard. And then after, when he was a congressman, he went over there and taught. Why is it that when we start looking at Chinese bringing in professors and stuff like that, we start seeing massive corruption? We start seeing state secrets being stolen. Why do we see the push of Marxism throughout our entire country within the ideology of our politicians? And then we find out that there's a deep, sinister connection to China. Senator Feinstein, for 30 years, had the same limousine driver that was listening in on private conversations, who attended various different briefs with her, who, after 30 years, was found out to be a Chinese spy. We have Eric Swalwell, a congressman for the Democratic Party, who was sleeping with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy. We have over 24 professors from various different universities that all had clearances, that were working on DARPA, NASA, DOD, Department of Energy, classified projects for the China. There's a China connection here. What we're seeing, people, is an invasion of our country. And in the midst of a national emergency, where martial law is truly declared, all hell is going to break loose. It is a Red Dawn type of situation, as Alex Jones called it, and that is what is being set up, and that is what is being prepared for, and to siege this country, because your government, many within it, are already bought and sold, are already within that ideology, have already set up the preliminary actions to make it all happen. The Harris Waltz campaign that is operating right now, up with fake poll numbers, that is providing massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation, and then blaming the other side for exactly that. They are the Marxist organization. They are the Marxist Party. They are the head of modern day communism that is coming to the United States of America. Here's the problem, is it doesn't matter whether Donald Trump gets in or not. It doesn't matter if Kamala Harris gets in or not, that there is going to be a rising up of this ideology, and it is going to be dangerous. It is going to happen at some point in the very, very near future. Why? Because these people will scorch the earth before they ever give up power. They have power right now, and they don't plan on giving it up anytime soon. Their plan is just in too well ahead. They have people as secretaries of the Department of Homeland Security, as Secretary of Defense. They have people in the Chief of Staff of Joe Biden's administration. They have people in Senate and Congress. They have people in the governor's office. They have people as governors. They have people in the state houses and senators. They have judges, they have lawyers, they have the legal system, they have the judicial system, they have the executive system, and the legislative system. They are not going to give up that power, and you can damn well know that something is going to fucking happen, and all hell will break loose. And I've talked about this situation many different times in the firestorm aspect, that what you will have is riots begin to break up in the streets. And I think that this is what they were planning with the Trump assassination attempt, is they were waiting for that event to occur, and then the riots begin breaking out, and then they unleash the 18 to 25-year-old highly trained military age men into the streets. 5-man groups going out to various different places, producing distractions in one end, allowing police and first responders to go there, and then seizing the police armories, police stations, National Guard armories, and taking over the military bases. It'll take 24 to 48 hours for the U.S. military or the National Guard to respond to any type of that type of situation. Massive cities of millions of people will fall within hours. That we're looking at right now. That is probably going to be the next big event, because it's the one that nobody Holy shit. I guess it's the price of telling the truth. China didn't like hearing that one, did they, Tammy?
No. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, wow, you're hitting it right on the head. Every time you say something, it freezes up. It's crazy.
Well, and I have perfect internet connection. Nothing wrong with my internet connection. During that whole time when I'm losing connection, I'm testing it. Perfect internet.
Yeah. Very interesting. It's a crazy week. I just can't wait to get your thoughts on a couple of things. Yeah. First of all, it feels like something's shifting again, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It feels like we went from, wow, there's a possibility we could actually win this thing really easily, to holy shit, prepare for war.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. It's I don't know. I have a friend that's really into astrology, and she had told me a couple of weeks ago that it was going to get shakier right during this time, mid August or whatever. She said it was going to get shakier, like things were really going to go crazy. And also synchronicities were going to be a thing. So I've been looking out for synchronicities in news stories and whatnot. And of course, I can see them dropping all these different news stories. And I think they're all leading into driving us into digital ID. I think now there's an announcement today. So there was a few things going on. Let me see if I can remember them all. First of all, the Mpox. Did you notice how we rebranded since the last time we launched monkeypox? It's now rebranded into Mpox. The WHO, Tedros makes a statement calling it Mpox, and then just like Mockingbird Media, everyone's articles are labeling it Mpox now, which I find interesting. What's the change? Well, it's not quite socially or politically correct, I guess, to call it monkeypox. I mean, they really they show who they are. So obviously, because they don't want to call it monkeypox because it's originated in Africa. Right. So they're like, who is so racist here? Because I would have never even thought of that. But that's how they are. Now it's got to be Mpox to be politically correct. These people are sickening. They're absolutely sickening.
Well, and they believe in the ideology. It's not that they're some of them might be plain, but other ones, I mean, they eat,
they're gone.
Sleep and shit this stuff.
Yeah, they're gone. They're absolutely nuts. So there was that. And then, so the WHO announced that yesterday. And then what do we have today? We have monkeypox in Sweden. So overnight, it jumped continents overnight, just on the heels of the WHO declaring it an emergency. So we've got that little, a little firestorm brewing there. And then they dropped another story about biometrics at the border. Did you see that?
Oh, I did. How they're going to increase the propensity of their facial recognition. The government is utilizing, by the way, and building by targeting infants, children coming over the border.
Yes. So now, I pulled the whole report from the White House website on the bio. This is from, I think, October of 2022 it was. And it's a 30-page report here for the National Biodefense Plan. Okay. Yep. It's all in here, Josh, right? It's all, we are in biowarfare. We have been in biowarfare since they dropped COVID. I mean, we can argue the origins of Lyme disease. We can argue the origins of wasting disease, all these other mysterious, viruses that have come out of nowhere and plagued us. I think the anthrax, all of these things were bioweapons, right? So now we're dealing with just a fast pace of bioweaponry because we're at war. This is a weapon they are using to collapse the system so they can launch their great agenda, the great reset, whatever the hell you want to call it. Everybody's got a different name for it, right? But all of these things are simultaneously taking place to create such chaos, as I know you've said before, that we call for order out of chaos, right? We accept the solution, because we're begging for it. So we've got bioweaponry going on. We have culture clash, major culture clash. Because the UK is getting so much visibility on the culture clash there through social media, we're not even barely hearing what's going on in Canada. And let me tell you, shit's hitting the fan there. All kinds of stuff is going on over there with culture clashing. We have people I follow with pretty significant accounts, followings on Twitter, moving out of their neighborhoods because the language in their neighborhood is now Punjabi. It's not English anymore.
Oh, interesting.
And of course, they are allowing for the calling of prayer in Canadian cities, Muslim prayer time in Canadian cities. So they're playing the music and they're shutting down streets for prayer, for Muslim prayer. Not only that, they have a huge problem with people defecating on the streets and on the beaches.
Why not? We're civilized.
Right. So, I mean, we are dealing with third world living conditions here because they're importing third world people. And that's what we're having happen. So it's interesting to me because, I was listening to a podcast today on health and they were talking about how we ended up getting rid of a lot of different, tuberculosis and diseases like that was simply because of sanitation. Mm-hmm. Before sanitation was elevated, we had people pooping in the streets. We had this stuff infiltrating our water. We had animals pooping in the water sources. This is why people were getting so sick. And now we're like, it's full circle. We have this, this is a real issue. It's funny, right? Because you think, oh my gosh, 2024, people pooping in the streets. No, but they're really dropping trow in the middle of the street and pooping in the street in Canada, in British Columbia, in Toronto, right? They are doing this on the beaches there and in the street because this is their way of life, right? Yeah. So and all they have to do is claim that, and I'm seeing this in the UK too with the sexual assault issue and the young girls. I just saw a surgeon out of the UK that was an immigrant, that was a surgeon, trying to have a sexual relationship with a minor. And his defense, he's a surgeon. His defense was, I just didn't know any better. I'm new here. That's what he said to the police when they showed up on his door. So we have this culture clash, excuse me. We have this culture clash coming in. We have all of the bioweaponry coming in. Like there's multiple offenses. Now we're dealing, with the political fallout, the campaign of Kamala Harris. And now they've announced that Trump is going to be arrested September 18th. Did you see that news? Oh, you were frozen.
1 second. Yep, I was frozen. Hold on. I got to do one thing. Okay. Okay. Well, it's still showing your camera frozen on my end. I don't know what's going on tonight. This is interesting. This is crazy. I've never seen it like this.
Talking about some good stuff. That's what's happening.
We must be. It's yeah. So yeah, they're talking about Trump is going to be arrested on September 18th.
Yeah.
I lost it again. 1 second. I'm going to do something real quick.
You're back.
I know I'm back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out computers. That this isn't know if it's just the new computer that's having the problems, but let me see if I can get this to work. So give me 1 second here.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just keep talking. I can see in the comments, people are listening. So I just wanted to, this is insane. Now, with the onset of Trump, this announcement of they're going to arrest him, what kind of priming is this for us to accept that Trump is going to be arrested on the 18th or 19th of September? And is this the grooming of a civil war? Because why are people, 9/18, thank you. So the 18th, it sounds like he's due to be arrested. I don't know, but it sounds like they're trying to rile things up. So again, sowing that chaos with all of these different threads of chaos going on at the same time will bring people to beg for the solution. And what is the solution, Josh? What do you think the solution is? I think it's digital ID, centralized currency, and not being able to use the internet unless you register. The other story was our Social Security infiltration, right? A hack to not just like a few Social Security numbers, but apparently all Social Security numbers of every American have been hacked. And so what's the security fallout of that? I don't know, but I tell you, it would be a great reason to require everybody give their biometrics to confirm their ID before we get access back to the internet, get access back into, all of our credit score stuff. Like it'd be the perfect thing, but it's just a murmuring right now, right? But we have all these little things just kind of bubbling. And I want to know what you think, Josh, when the explosion is due to hit. Is it September 18th? Oh, I can't hear you. Dang it. Nope.
Test.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Got it. Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, what we were just kind of saying with the Trump assassination, they were going to utilize that as a reason to rise up the radicals in the streets, to produce the chaos, the summer of love that we've been calling was going to happen. That didn't happen. They lost their opportunity. So now they have to produce another type of event. So we have a few different scenarios that can unfold here. Number one is the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, is next week in Chicago. Chicago, it's in the one area in Chicago over by like where the Chicago Bulls play and stuff, that is the highest concentration of Venezuelan gangs in Chicago that are running rampant. And so they're very scared that something actually will happen, because you just saw what happened at Kamala Harris's campaign rally yesterday with all the pro-Palestinian protesters throwing smoke bombs and running in and rushing in. So we could potentially see something happening next week. We could also see the flip of the switch, Kamala being taken out. And I mean that in many different ways, people. Not just removed at the DNC by a new candidate, but taken out because they don't want her as a fucking candidate. But the September 18th date starts to make a lot more sense, is that if they throw Donald Trump in jail, we know damn well that that is going to be a catalyst, a recipe for some pissed off people on the right to begin standing up and saying, what the fuck is going on?
For sure. What happens to Kamala's money? That's, I think my first thought is, okay, so if they do take Kamala out, if you're right and you think, and I agree, it feels like they don't want her to run, but they just had no choice. Right. Well, they couldn't get access to the funds unless Kamala was the one running. So what's the legal route to them being able to keep the money, the fundraising money, if she can't run? Like, is it if she dies?
It kind of goes back to the same thing with Joe Biden. Is number one is they illegally transferred Joe Biden's money to Kamala. And you notice how a week after that, everybody's like, oh, it's investigated. Now you don't hear anything about it.
No.
And that because of the Uni Party. But basically, if she dies is when that's going to happen. Because right now, the way it is on the books, even with the DNC, Kamala automatically loses 3 states because those can't transfer away from Joe Biden. So I don't know what people are kind of talking about here in the sense that she's the candidate. Unless Joe Biden dies, which I said could happen between August and September, she's not going to win those 3 states because those delegates, those electors are already positioned for Joe Biden. And there's no changing that. So there's some various different situations that can unravel between, I would say, next week and September 18th. I think that they're going to utilize something like Donald Trump being arrested, thrown in jail, Rikers Island, as the method to produce the summer of love, the chaos in the streets that could cancel the election, quite literally. I mean, I think that event right there would make them impose martial law, because they don't even need real riots to even happen. They can have Antifa go out there with MAGA and U.S. flags and start burning shit down, right? This is how they operate. They need the illusion that this is happening, and then they can declare martial law, and then obviously, hey, if you, since it's so bad out there, if you need to go to the grocery store, you got to present this new Real ID 2020. You got to present this new global ID. You have to have your papers checked at the doors. This is the type of stuff that's going to happen because you got to have a safe passage. You know, we want to make sure that you're not one of those crazy people that are producing all this horror in the streets and stuff like that. So I think that we could see around that time frame, all of this begin to kick off, and something very similar to that happening to where it opens the door to what I was saying with the 18 to 25-year-old Chinese males coming in and them starting to take over the cities, and all of that should happen.
Well, it certainly makes sense. And I'm right there with you with these, bad actors that are just out on the street. Why is everybody wearing masks in the protests? I even wonder that in the UK. You know, everybody seems to be masked over there in these protests. I get, okay, they're concealing their identity, but how many of those are real people, just grassroots people, and how many are paid to be out there causing discourse, right? Just like trying to rile everything up. I wonder about that, because the end agenda, we have to keep our mind on the end agenda, which is this mass surveillance state. It's where it's prison planet. Alex Jones is right. Like it's prison planet. That's where they want to take us. And so they have to have that mechanism to get everybody to kind of be like, well, I guess this is what we have to do. And I can just see it bubbling up right now, because there's so many different ways, so many different stories that are just bubbling right here. Not one of them is really like the clear winner yet of how they're going to really use it. But they're all just kind of sitting there. And I just feel like things have changed yet again.
Well, if we look historically, the way Marxists have taken control and power, I mean, you had the Bolshevik Revolution, you had the European riots of the 1850s, you had the burning of the Reichstag, right? You have all these various, you have the rising of the workers' parties. You have all these various events that happened over a very short time frame that seized power almost immediately.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what they're waiting to do here in the United States of America. And I think that for everybody out there, it's sooner rather
I
than
do too. I do too. I said that today on my show. I think I was off on the timeline. I thought we had more time. I think it's going to happen sooner than we think. They're going hard with this Mpox. They're going hard with it. The bird flu's been murmuring for quite a while. They tried the monkeypox at first. It feels like they're going to go full steam ahead with this one. They've already ordered, or they're about to order, a bunch of monkeypox
10
vaccines.
billion vaccines. Yep.
Yes. I mean, they ordered a bunch of bird flu ones as well. But the problem is people aren't actually getting sick from bird flu, But if we start seeing, I wonder how resilient the American people are going to be.
Us, Tammy. No, bird flu is for our food.
Yeah. Agreed.
For the supply chain.
But what do you think the temperature is of the American population if they start placing, these horrific photos of monkeypox online? How do you gauge the American public? How do you think they're going to respond?
I think that it'll be very similar to COVID. It'll be fear and panic, and people be wearing masks and maybe publicly wearing condoms. I don't know, because it's a sexually transmitted disease. It's incredibly difficult to transmit monkeypox through like coughing and stuff like that. So if people are educated on these things, I don't understand how they could be afraid of something like this. But I don't think that what we're going to see is really monkeypox. I think what we're going to see is something completely different. Because we got to remember, there was something else that happened here. Nanotechnology was injected into the bloodstreams of human beings. And I've talked about this at extent, that the one key part of which the COVID-19 actually attacked was your ACE2 receptors in your lungs. And you have ACE2 receptors throughout your whole body. Now, your ACE2 receptor is kind of like this doorway that unlocks the cell and lets things in through potassium-sodium gating, right? So we have the scenario to where people got the spike protein all throughout their bodily system, and their body's producing it, and it's latching onto ACE2 receptors. Now all it needs is an electrical mechanism to start initiating that and have a cytosome storm.
Right.
And that would produce inflammation, fever, flu-like symptoms. I'm just saying, I think that what we might be here is electromagnetic warfare.
Well, we certainly did see those videos. I'm sure. Did you ever see one of those where, someone's just standing there and then all of a sudden they start spinning and then they collapse? There was more than 10 of those. Yeah. So that, to me, again, we have to go back. And did you know that they did 33 different types of recipes of the injection? There were 33 different types. So different formulas. Interesting, 33, right? If you're into numerology and the Mason, all of the stuff behind that, the history behind numbers and stuff. It's interesting that they picked 33, but there's 33 different recipes. So it makes sense how some people didn't have any effect, while other people had, they got shingles right away. I know a couple of people whose work offices, they had a huge outbreak of shingles right after the vaccine, right after the shot, the COVID shot. I hate calling it a vaccine, the injections. And so it's interesting because I think David Icke was right. I interviewed David Icke years ago now at the beginning. I know you've had him on your show too. Yeah. And his whole thing was 5G. Do you remember that?
Yep.
There's no such thing as a virus. There's no such thing as COVID. There's no such thing as COVID. He stayed steadfast on that message. And he's thought this entire time that it was 5G. And after interviewing Anna Mihalcea, I think she's definitely onto something, with all of her evidence. She's a doctor that, points out, she does the black light microscopy. And she put all of it under black light microscopy, and she can see things in there and see the little sensories, the self-assembling sensors and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, nothing's off the table. It is just, It's kind of terrifying though, because I think there is a degree of shedding to these things as well. I don't think, all of us got away without being affected by it just because we didn't take it, quite honestly. I think it's, they're putting it in food, they're putting it all around. That's my belief.
Right. And for anybody out there, back in the 90s, there was something called Morgellons that was going out. Yes. And it was these little fibers that were coming out of people's bodies. And they had them analyzed, and they were looked at like, or appeared to be, silicon-based life forms. And this was all conspiracy theory and hoopla. But understand that most likely this was early onset of nanotechnology being tested in the field through the propagation through aerosols in the atmosphere. The spraying of various different chemtrails in the atmosphere, raining down, and seeing if they would have any impact on a human being down below. I mean, this type of agenda, it's sick, it's demented, but I think it's been going on a lot longer than we could ever imagine. The one thing that I will say, in the sense of the shedding, and it's in our food and stuff like that, is I think that the human body, the human being, is incredibly resilient. And I think that the reason why we haven't seen what, like, people like Dr. Kirk had said we would, within 5 years, you're going to see, 20, 30, 40, 50% death tolls, right? All this stuff.
Yeah.
I think the reason we haven't seen that is because of the resiliency of the human body. Because
absolutely.
Our body has taken it in, adjusted, and said, I can fix this shit. And see, that's the one aspect of all of this, in the sense of these bioengineers, that they cannot predict, is how the human body is going to react to this after a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
I totally agree. And I talk about that all the time. We were wholly made, we are capable. But it's more important than ever right now to pay attention to your health. It's not the time to be, putting your health on the back burner, because if you're already dealing with toxicity because of the toxic food that you eat every day, and because of the chemicals that you're exposed to in your environment, and you've got all these kind of strikes against you, it's going to be that much harder for you to deal with this assault, whatever it may be. So now's the time to focus on your health. You have to clean up your diet. I mean, I talk to patriots all the time, and they're willing to take up arms to fight for their country. Fight for yourself too.
Yeah.
Number one, fight for yourself, because I don't, it's a real disconnect in American culture that, health trumps all, because you can't do shit if you're not well.
That's right.
You can't do anything if you're not well. And so I've just been, banging that drum a lot on my show lately, because we have to get healthier. We fall victim to whatever they want us to do when we're not healthy. You don't have the energy to not comply. You don't have the luxury to not comply, because maybe you're reliant on the medications and you need to take from the cult. I call them the medical cult.
Yeah.
So now's the time. You've got to get healthy. And, there's no reason to feel shame about it. I know a lot of people, I think they just think, well, these are my results right now, and I know I should have done better or whatever. Put all that aside. Shame's just going to keep you from acting. It's time to act. Put the shame aside. You don't have to feel shame about it. This freaking world is not set up for us to be super healthy. It's set up for the opposite. But acknowledge that, put the shame aside, and start working on your health. Number one, clean up your diet. You could do that tomorrow. You can start afresh tomorrow.
I will start tomorrow.
Josh.
So, first thing, love the beach. Happy birthday out there to Love the Beach in the D Live chat. Happy birthday to you. And then I got some breaking news that actually happened when we were talking about it. Monkeypox, Mpox, known as monkeypox, has now been detected in the wastewater of 2 different districts.
Oh,
officials are investigating as wastewater from 2 separate districts in San Francisco, California, have detected the presence of Mpox. The first detection occurred in Oceanside neighborhood in San Francisco, followed by the second detection in the southeastern part of the city. There it is.
They're going with it, dude. They're going with it. Can you
get nothing to lose? They got nothing to lose. Why not?
I can't believe they're going with the monkeypox. I just can't believe it. Yeah, it is just insane. That go back and watch Dr. Artis's Watch the Water. That I'm sad that it got marketed the way it did, by Stu Peters, because I think he did it a disservice by sensationalizing it. Watch the Water. But go back and listen to my interview with Dr. Artis in my archives. We talk about that. I'm not sure he's talked about that anywhere else, that he's, had that interaction with Stu Peters, and the fallout from it, because he really got fallout from that. And it wasn't really his intention to watch the water, right? It was how he came to understand how it was, the mechanism, how it was being spread, right? So go back and watch it. I'm going to go back and watch it, because you bring up the water systems right away. I'm like, oh, here we go. They're going with it. I can't believe they're going with it. I really can't believe it. I can't believe it, you guys. I can't believe it. But prevention. Also, they recently, this makes more sense too, because they are going to go with it. So it seems like makes more sense that they crushed Dr. Pierre Corey and Dr. Paul Merrick this week, took away their licenses. Those were the two leading therapeutic doctors, Josh.
Canada.
No, American.
Yeah,
Dr. Pierre Corey.
I thought is Canadian.
No, he's American. So Macus is Canadian. Maybe you're thinking of him. So the American Board of Internal Medicine has taken away their licenses. Those were the two of the main front, like they were actually working on the front lines with COVID patients. And so they were coming across stuff that was working. And I said today on my show, in any real situation where they were trying to solve problems, they would have had a triage line set up where physicians could put in their protocols in real time and document the results they were getting with real patients. It would have quickly shown what was working and what wasn't, right? They didn't have that established. And now they've just delicensed Pierre Corey and Dr. Paul Marcus, right? Is it Marcus? Now you've got me mixed up. But anyway, they just took away those two guys' license, and they were the leading treaters of it, right? They were the ones using the HCQ early on, because that was stopping the replication of the virus. And then they were using ivermectin. And they were doing some vitamin stuff too. They were doing zinc stuff, and of course quercetin, all of these different things, and it was working. And it's interesting, as Mpox is now all amped up, that they go after these two guys and get their licenses. They're not. I mean, it's been a 2-year battle, but it's interesting in that the whole thing is wrapping up right now, right when they won't be able to practice with therapeutics. Because they're going to tell you again, it's gonna escalate, Josh. I could see it now. Oh, it's airborne. Oh, it's respiratory. It's mutated.
Don't know what it is, but it's killing everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. We thought it was monkeypox, but now it's goat pox.
It's gone airborne, people. And it's asymptomatic. Right. Oh, here we go.
Go back to every major zombie movie ever. It rapidly spread. We didn't know how to contain it. We didn't even know what it was. It started as this, and then it mutated so fast, and people were asymptomatic and spreading it, and then they would die and turn into zombies. Oh shit! Here we go. We can have the apocalypse. It's just not a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe they're going with it. When I first saw it pop up again, I thought, well, I just ignored it. And then then yesterday when the WHO declared an emergency, I thought, oh shit, here we go. This is it. This is the one. They're really going to go with the monkeypox. Wow.
Well, this also could be the World Health Organization showing their strength through the pandemic treaty. Look, we had this medical emergency in Africa, and we stomped the shit out of it and stopped the spread of it because of everything that we put into the pandemic treaty. So everybody needs to adopt this. It could be one of those, but they're close to the U.S. election. I don't know.
I think you're right. They're hanging on by a thread at this point, right? They're trying to, like you said, scorched earth, right? Scorched earth. I think this could be it. I think we could end up going into some kind of lockdown and stuff, and everything happening all over again, I dare say. But I think there's going to be a big population that doesn't comply this time.
Oh yeah. If we go to lockdown, it's lockdowns equal lock and load. I'm just going to say that. I mean, there's only so much we can do as human beings, but we're getting to that point. We're getting to that point where, and you know what that means though? It doesn't mean like go out there and fight your neighbor or anything like that. I think everybody understands that there's going to be certain targets out there when that type of stuff happens. And I probably shouldn't be saying this, but if you remember the movie Braveheart, when he goes to the senator's house and he breaks in and the guy's sleeping and he takes the ball and chain and smacks him over the head and then jumps out the window into the river. That's kind of what will probably happen. I'm not saying senators, but I'm just saying as people responsible for this type of stuff.
Right.
They'll get vigilante justice will become a thing during those lockdowns. I assure you.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Canada, and in Canada we say taking one for the team. And quite honestly, I can't believe that someone hasn't took one from the team from a lot of people already. That's all I'm going to say about that. It is mind blowing because I can't imagine going through the same thing over again. It's caused such destruction, and not even just with our infrastructure of our country. That's bad enough. Obviously, it's destroyed our economy. It's destroyed education. It's destroyed a lot of things in that way. But just the one-on-one relationships that it has destroyed is so sad. And I think we'll see, a lot more suicides, unfortunately. I think mental health will just go completely off a cliff, and we're just hanging on to that by a thread right now. I mean, people are hanging on by a thread for a lot of, very justified reasons. And I can't imagine if they go through the same thing again. I can't imagine
if they go through it and comply, I can't imagine that if people are actually going through this and complying. Because here's the thing is I know myself and millions upon millions of others are going to be like, no, not happening. And, it's going to cause problems, and it's going to divide our country even more. And I think maybe that's one of the methodologies and reasons that they're trying to do it. But, and Grismo said it, we can't afford another lockdown. And they're absolutely right. Yeah. Because inflation's too high. I mean, just imagine what would happen with another lockdown. It's going to be detrimental to our children, to the jobs and markets and everything. So if they're looking for a reset, another lockdown has to come at some point. And I think that if they want to secure power, steal power, implement a Marxist agenda, get rid of the American patriots and the gun owners and do all of this stuff, there's no better time than the present.
Yeah, and add censorship on top of that, right? What we've seen with the Trump-Elon interview, they did an attack from the get-go of the interview. They were able to delay it. And then they are talking about filing charges against people for speaking. I mean, that interview, I watched the whole thing, but like, even if I didn't agree with either of the parties on the interview there was still nothing earth shaking on there that would cause you to think it needed to be censored.
Well,
they're censoring existence now.
I think what was going on, and I haven't even talked about this yet, but I was trying to get more information from someone I have, but this was my thought. Is number one is they had the DDoS attack. This was Trump's return to Twitter.
I know.
Right? So they started with a DDoS attack. We know this was a nation state derived DDoS attack on Twitter, on X. But why was the European Union coming out before the interview ever happened and calling for a censorship of it? Why was the American politicians coming out and saying that they have to take this down and have to censor this before it even happened? So earlier this year, Donald Trump had David Cameron, the former Prime Minister of the UK, come and visit him at Mar-a-Lago. Later on in the year, he met with Boris Johnson, former prime minister of the UK as well.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation that we got that happened between David Cameron and Donald Trump was pertaining to the Crossfire Hurricane binder that the FBI was looking for at Mar-a-Lago that Trump declassified twice before he left office, and that he has a copy of. What happened is earlier this year, Michael Schellenberg was given an anonymous folder with information pertaining to the Crossfire Hurricane binder, documents that are now classified because they classified under reasons of national security, but were declassified under Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons they went after Donald Trump. Schellenberg took one of those documents, which happened to talk about, or actually was a document directly from the UK intelligence agencies, MI6. And it was Barack Obama's signed signature giving authorization to MI6 to investigate Trump for Russia collusion. It was a completely fabricated document. Well, no, it was a completely lied document based upon the Steele dossier. So it was a real document, but showing Five Eyes involvement in the persecution of Donald Trump. So after that document came out, David Cameron went to Mar-a-Lago and was like, hey, we want to make sure that there's no more fallout and that we're not going to be thrown under the bus for this. This was Barack Obama. They're doing, not ours. And Trump said, I can't assure anything. So when he was going to go on Twitter with Elon, which they knew 1 billion people are going to watch this, they thought Trump was going to spill the beans and bring it all out, start telling everything and showing documents.
Got it. Well, that makes sense because that's what I thought through the whole thing. And then even afterwards, I mean, there was such gaslighting going on. I saw a statement from the Harris campaign that was like, what was that? What even was that? It's like, what are you talking about? Like that was, it was a critically thought out conversation, exchange of ideas. That's what it was in real time, which they don't even know. I mean, they don't even operate in real time. Everything is so friggin' scripted with those people. I can't even listen to it. It just makes me sick to listen to them because everything's some kind of rehearsed regurgitation of a speech or talking points. And so it was refreshing. Although I did get, some people on my show were saying, he should have asked this or he should have asked that. There seemed to be a little bit of confusion about it being a conversation. And I think that as the public, we have to kind of adjust to the new format of learning about things, of getting news.
Right.
At the very top of the interview, Elon stated, this is a conversation. This is a conversation. We're having a conversation here, right? But you can learn so much more from a conversation rather than an interview. I don't do interviews anymore. I have conversations with people. Because
called Conversations on the Fringe.
Yes. It's like, what are you going to learn from an interview? I mean, everyone can practice their talking points. If you're going to do an interview, they know what you're going to ask them about and they know what they're going to say. Yep. It's very scripted. Have a conversation with someone. Don't tell them what you're going to ask the next talking point. Have a list of things that you want to cover because you're interested in their thoughts about them, but let the conversation flow because a conversation is an exchange of back and forth ideas. And we as the public have to get used to taking that information in that format. If we really want truth, that's what we have to do. We can't just expect these news, talking head things in the alternative media now with all of the same garbage, the same softball questions, the same kind of agenda pushing. We have to be like, okay, now it's time for us to do the discerning. If we want real truth, we're going to have to gauge people, listen to them a few times in different conversations to get a feeling for their true ideas and who they are. I'm a huge fan of language, of the English language. Like I'm always studying people's language because they'll tell you exactly what they mean in the words that they choose to use. If you listen, but you have to listen closely. And so we have some work to do as the public as well. If we really, we want freedom, we want there to be no censorship. Of course, we're pushing back against this great reset and stuff. We're pushing back against the medical mafia, but we have work to do ourselves as well. We have to learn how to be different patients in the healthcare model. We have to learn how to be different constituents in the political model. We have to learn how to be different listeners and learners of the news. So we have work to do too if we want this new this new frontier of life, or whatever you want to call it, because no matter what, we're not going back to the way things were. And that's a good thing.
Well, that's what this show was about, is that the America we used to know, it's gone.
Yes.
No more. But let's build something better. Let's build a better America. Let's build a better, safer place, a more beautiful place, and not one full of woke ideologies and not one full of radical Marxism, but instead one of freedom, to where, like I said, is I believe that every American born should be given an acre of land by the government. I
think that's a great idea. We can certainly do it.
Yeah, the government should not own any fucking land.
Yeah.
None. And if they're going to have a base or a post office on property, then they have to pay rent to the American people.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell are we doing here?
It's gotten so ridiculous now. You have to buy a bloody permit to go into the mountains.
Yeah.
To get on a hiking trail.
Yeah.
I mean, this my son at 21 years old discovered this the other day, because he goes a lot of back trail stuff, and discovered that, on these other trails, you have to buy a permit. He was so offended. This is my land. I was born here. Everybody, can use the land. It's God's land. Why do I have to pay to go into God's nature? This is insulting.
Well,
and we put up with it. We put up with it. So
it's exactly it. We allow it to happen.
Yeah. We allow it to happen. So we have some work to do as well. If we truly want what we say we want, then we have some work to do. Like I said, there are certain things that we've been participating in, myself included. I'm not calling anybody out here. All of us, we have to do a little soul searching, and understand that if we want change, we have to support the changes, right? So if you don't want to get these, I saw in the comments here, someone was talking about the doctors that were killed in the plane crash in Brazil, right? 8 cancer doctors, one of which who was working on an immunotherapy that was really, really promising, and is really promising when it comes to turning off cancer cells. So being able to turn off cancer cells, because that's the problem with cancer, is the cells replicate and they're abnormal. That's why it consumes your body, right? So he was working on a T-cell therapy that was very promising, and he was going to a summit to present that material. There were supposed to be 15 doctors on that plane, but 7 took a later flight, and 8, all cancer doctors on their way to that summit, died on that plane that day.
Did you see the plane just flying and all of a sudden stop?
Just dropped. Yeah.
Almost like the air was pulled out from underneath it. Like some type of energy weapon just kind of hit it and
sucked it into, pulled it down. Yeah. And this, we don't know if that's what happened or what happened, but the thing is that we have to demand those solutions for real solutions for health. We have to demand them. That means we have to stop buying their shit. We have to tap out of buying their stuff and go, no, that's not good enough for me anymore. I want to learn about the power of mushrooms, right? I want to learn about the power of mushrooms for my health. I want to learn about these other modalities that have been being suppressed for so many years. But see, that's where people, I think, take a step back and they think, well, we'll vote a politician in that will regulate that. That'll change that for us. Oh, we get it behind our politician. That's great. If you really believe in somebody that could do good work, that's wonderful. But you have to take action.
Right.
You have to take action alongside with that. You can't just support your favorite politician and sit back and wait. You have to take action, which means tap into community commerce, right? Make your purchases with people who, are small business owners that are providing good, better quality things, and put your money where your mouth is. It's a challenge. They're making it super easy. The thing that they have on us is they've primed us for convenience, and they are counting on us taking the convenient way.
Right.
They're counting on it.
They're counting on us being lazy and undisciplined.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. And they've nurtured that behavior. They've nurtured that behavior in us as a society. They say, oh, it's okay, right? We can just, a pill for every ill. Just take this pill. You can eat whatever you want. It's not true. You can't just take a pill and eat whatever you want and not suffer any consequences. The truth is that pill just covers up those signals that your body is sending, and then it goes somewhere else. And you get additional health issues. So I think we have some work to do. I love the title of your show tonight because it was America we knew, but we do have a chance to build something greater, and we shouldn't lose sight of that in all of the fear porn that is taking place these days.
100%. And, it's times like these that remind us of what it's like to be actually human, what it's like to be American. And sometimes we need to be reminded of this. Thomas Jefferson said it best, is that the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and the blood of tyrants. And they expected that every 100 years, him and Madison, between their talkings in the Federalist Papers, they expected that every 100 years. And it's been quite a while. And so I'm not saying that we need to spread the blood of tyrants, but tyrants need to go. They need to be eliminated from the equation, and that we as a people need to rise up and take back the power. And it starts with taking back the power in our own lives.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It really does. It has to start with us. Has to.
Yep. 100%. And Tammy, we can find you at redpills.tv/NIP for everybody out there listening. And then also naturallyinspiredpodcast.com, naturallyinspiredpodcast.com. She's got great stuff out there, great content. And then you can also find her at redpills.tv/NIP. So I got to figure out how my computer stuff is going on here. So I apologize for everybody. I've been taken off guard. I got a second computer working and the other one's still there connected. So I'm going to try to figure that out. I am going to be going to socialredpill.com for the After Dark Q&A. I'll probably be a little bit late for everybody out there. That's socialredpill.com for everybody out there. Tammy, thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you again next week.
Yes. Thank you, Josh. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I love this community.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Spoon, that's impossible. Only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.